What if I told you the most dangerous threat to your manhood isn't cancer, isn't heart disease, but something far quieter, something happening inside your own body right now, and you won't feel it until it's too late? My name is Dr. James. I've spent over 30 years as a men's health specialist working with thousands of men over the age of 60. I've held hands with patients who cried not because they were in pain, but because they wished they had known what I'm about to share decades earlier. The real tragedy isn't the prostate problems themselves, it's that most of them could have been prevented. Yes, prevented. Yet 8 out of 10 men only learn the truth after the damage has already begun. Why are we not talking about this? Why isn't this taught the moment we turn 50? In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 powerful science-backed secrets about prostate health that older men across the country wish they'd known earlier. Secrets that could protect your freedom, your dignity, and your most personal sense of manhood. And make sure you stay until the end, because secret number 7 is the one that shocked even me. I call it the silent destroyer, and it's likely affecting you right now without a single symptom. Before we dive deeper, if you're finding this helpful, go ahead and click subscribe and tap the bell icon. That way you'll never miss another important health lesson made specifically for men like you. And if this message is speaking to you, type 1 in the comments. If there's something you think I could do better, type 0. I read every comment and your feedback helps me help more men. Now let's get into the 7 prostate health secrets that every older man deserves to know. Because the sooner you understand them, the more control you'll have over your body, your comfort, and your future. Secret 1, it's not just about cancer, it's about quality of life. When men hear the word prostate, their minds often jump straight to cancer. And while prostate cancer is serious, it's not the most immediate concern for most men in their 60s, 70s, or even 80s. In fact, the most common threat lurking quietly in the background isn't life-threatening, but it is life-altering. I've seen it steal sleep, disrupt marriages, kill intimacy, and crush a man's confidence. And tragically, it happens so slowly and silently that most men don't realize it's happening until they're already deep in the struggle. I've had men come into my clinic exhausted from waking up 5 or 6 times a night just to urinate. Some of them told me they hadn't slept through the night in years. Others admitted they had started planning their errands around bathroom locations, avoiding long drives, skipping outings with friends, or even turning down dates because they feared the embarrassment of urgency. These aren't isolated stories. These are daily realities for millions of older men in America. The real issue is an enlarged prostate, medically called benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH. It's not cancer, but it can feel just as disruptive. As the prostate grows with age, it begins to squeeze the urethra, the tube that carries urine out of the body, making it harder to urinate fully or comfortably. This pressure builds up and leads to frequent trips to the bathroom, weak flow, dribbling, and a constant feeling like you still need to go. And while these symptoms may sound minor to someone on the outside, any man who's lived through them knows how much they can erode your quality of life. Worse, most men assume it's just part of getting old. So they don't talk about it. They don't ask questions. They just accept it and try to cope in silence. That's what makes this secret so important. The earlier you recognize that prostate issues are about living fully, not just avoiding disease, the faster you can act and the more life you can preserve. You see, this isn't just about managing symptoms. It's about protecting your freedom, your sleep, your peace of mind, your ability to enjoy life without fear or shame. In my 30 years of practice, I've seen men come back to life, not by curing some major illness, but by finally getting their prostate under control. One man told me after just a few months of targeted changes, he felt like he had gotten 10 years of his life back. He could sleep, he could travel, he could laugh again without clenching his bladder. That's what real health is, not just surviving, but thriving. And here's the truth that might surprise you most. The real damage isn't done by the symptoms themselves. It's done by waiting too long to address them. Prostate inflammation and enlargement can lead to bladder damage, infections, kidney strain, and a host of downstream issues if left untreated. But if caught early and handled wisely, much of it is preventable, or at the very least manageable without invasive surgery or heavy medication. So don't wait for it to get worse. Don't let shame, pride, or misinformation keep you stuck. If you've noticed changes in your urinary habits, your sleep, or your confidence, now is the time to pay attention. Because as eye-opening as this secret is, the next one may be even more surprising. Most men don't realize their prostate is already aging, even if they feel perfectly fine. And the real countdown starts long before symptoms ever show up. If you're still with me and finding these insights valuable, type the number 1 in the comments to let me know you're here and taking action. Now let's keep going and dive into the next important truth. Secret 2. Your prostate starts aging long before you feel it. One of the most dangerous beliefs I've encountered in my decades as a physician is this: if I feel fine, I must be fine. Unfortunately, that mindset has led far too many good men straight into preventable problems, especially when it comes to the prostate. You see, the prostate doesn't wait until retirement to start aging. In fact, most men's prostates begin changing in their 40s. But because the symptoms often stay silent for years, men assume everything is perfectly normal until it suddenly isn't. By the time a man reaches his 60s, there's already a greater than 50% chance that his prostate has enlarged in some way. That number rises to 70% by the time he's in his 70s and hits 90% by age 80. But here's the thing most men don't realize: the process begins decades earlier. It's slow, it's gradual, and most of the damage is done before any noticeable warning sign ever appears. Think of your prostate like a pipe under the floorboards. You can't see it, and at first you can't hear or feel anything wrong, but corrosion and pressure slowly build over time. One day you notice a drip, then a stain, and by the time you call the plumber, you've got a whole section of your floor rotting away. That's exactly how prostate aging works. By the time it forces your attention, it's already been progressing for years behind the scenes. So what causes this quiet aging? A mix of things: declining testosterone, chronic low-grade inflammation, dietary deficiencies, stress, lack of movement, and even subtle hormonal imbalances caused by poor sleep or weight gain. All of these small contributors accumulate over time, gradually transforming your once healthy prostate into a source of discomfort, dysfunction, and emotional frustration. And because there's no pain early on, it rarely gets addressed. That's what makes early awareness so powerful, because once you understand that your prostate's clock starts ticking long before your first nighttime bathroom trip, you can make changes that actually slow the aging process, or in some cases, even help reverse it. Small shifts in diet, smarter exercise routines, and targeted supplements can go a long way in reducing inflammation and protecting the prostate from further strain. I often tell my patients, you can't wait until the check engine light comes on to start caring about your car. You change the oil before the engine seizes. You check the tires before they blow. Your prostate deserves the same kind of foresight. And just because you don't feel anything wrong right now doesn't mean your body isn't whispering for attention. I've seen men in their early 60s take simple, proactive steps: more fiber, less sugar, cleaner protein, a few minutes of walking daily, and report not only fewer prostate symptoms, but improved energy, better mood, and even sharper memory. That's the beauty of prevention. It doesn't just stop a problem, it improves the whole system. But the longer you wait, the fewer options you have. That's why understanding this second secret is so vital. Your window to act is much wider when you start early. And if you're already feeling the effects, don't worry, your body still responds to care no matter your age. It's never too late to start treating your prostate like it matters. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'll just ask my doctor to run a PSA test, and if it comes back normal, I'm in the clear. But here's where the third secret gets tricky, because the PSA test isn't the safety net you think it is. In fact, it might be misleading you more than it's helping. Secret 3. PSA tests are not enough and sometimes mislead. Over the years, the PSA test has become the gold standard for prostate screening. Doctors recommend it, patients ask for it, and for many men, it offers a sense of security, a number on a lab report that tells them whether they're in the clear or in danger. But here's the hard truth that too few men are told. Relying solely on a PSA test can give you a dangerously false sense of confidence, or worse, send you into unnecessary panic. PSA stands for prostate-specific antigen, a protein made by both normal and abnormal prostate cells. Elevated levels of PSA in the blood can be a sign of prostate cancer, but they can also be caused by other things, like an enlarged prostate, a urinary tract infection, recent ejaculation, or even a long bike ride. In other words, a high PSA doesn't automatically mean cancer, and a low PSA doesn't guarantee your prostate is healthy. It's not a yes or no answer, it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle. I can't tell you how many times I've seen patients come into my office terrified after a routine PSA screening came back slightly elevated. Some had been rushed into unnecessary biopsies filled with anxiety, only to discover there was no real threat. Others had ignored symptoms for years because their PSA looked fine, not realizing that their discomfort and declining quality of life were signs of non-cancerous but very real prostate problems. That's why context matters. A single number on a blood test can never replace a full understanding of your body. What were your symptoms? Has your PSA risen over time or remained stable? Do you have a family history? How's your urination, your sleep, your overall health? These are the questions that matter, yet they're often overlooked when too much weight is placed on one test result. I once had a patient, let's call him Robert, who had a PSA of 3.5. On paper, that's considered within normal range for his age. But Robert had been waking up 5 times a night, feeling pelvic pressure, and experiencing changes in his sexual function. A deeper look revealed he had significant prostate inflammation, not cancer, but still very disruptive. If we'd gone by PSA alone, we would have missed it entirely. Instead, we caught it early, made lifestyle changes, and helped him get his life back. The takeaway here is not that PSA tests are useless. They're valuable tools when used the right way, but they should never be the only thing guiding your decisions. A smart doctor looks at the whole picture, your history, your habits, your symptoms, and yes, your lab work, but in balance. Think of PSA as a smoke alarm. Sometimes it's alerting you to a fire. Other times it's just reacting to burnt toast. You need to investigate before assuming the worst or the best. So if you've had a PSA test and everything looked normal, don't let that be the end of the conversation. Pay attention to your body. Notice the changes. Trust your instincts, and if something feels off, don't be afraid to speak up, even if your numbers say otherwise. Prostate issues are personal, and no two men are exactly alike. You deserve more than a one-size-fits-all answer. And speaking of unique answers, there's something even more surprising that science is just beginning to fully understand. Your gut health and your prostate are connected in ways we never imagined. The bacteria living in your digestive system may actually be influencing the health of your prostate right now. If you're still watching and this is resonating with you, drop a number 1 in the comments so I know you're still with me. Let's keep moving forward now with the 4th essential insight. Secret 4. Your gut and prostate are secretly connected. When we talk about prostate health, most men never think to look below the belt, literally below the prostate. But what if I told you that one of the biggest influences on your prostate isn't your age, genetics, or even your hormone levels? It's your gut. Yes, the trillions of bacteria living inside your digestive system may be quietly affecting your prostate in ways that can either support healing or feed inflammation. And the more we learn about this connection, the clearer it becomes. A healthier gut may mean a healthier prostate. Here's how it works. Inside your digestive tract is a vast ecosystem called the gut microbiome. It's made up of good and bad bacteria, and when they're balanced, they support digestion, boost your immune system, and reduce inflammation throughout the body. But when that balance is thrown off by poor diet, processed food, alcohol, sugar, stress, or antibiotics, it leads to something called gut dysbiosis. And this condition doesn't just stay in your belly, It sends ripples throughout your entire body. When your gut becomes inflamed, your intestinal lining weakens. This can allow bacteria, toxins, and inflammatory compounds to leak into your bloodstream, a phenomenon often referred to as leaky gut. Once these substances reach your blood, they can travel anywhere. And for aging men, one of the most vulnerable targets is the prostate. Why? Because the prostate is already under pressure from hormonal changes and cellular aging. Add systemic inflammation to the mix, and it becomes a recipe for swelling, discomfort, and dysfunction. I've seen it happen firsthand. A man comes in with an inflamed prostate, struggling with frequent urination and pelvic tension, but his hormone levels are fine. His PSA is stable. On the surface, nothing looks abnormal. Then we start asking about his digestion. Bloating, constipation, acid reflux, irregular bowel movements. 9 times out of 10, there's a story there. We work on cleaning up his diet, introducing probiotics, cutting out inflammatory foods like refined sugar, seed oils, and processed grains. And over time, the prostate symptoms begin to ease. It doesn't happen overnight, but the improvement is real and lasting. It's not magic, it's biology. Your gut and your prostate are connected through what's known as the gut-prostate axis, a newly studied pathway where immune responses, inflammation, and even hormones are influenced by gut bacteria. Some strains of harmful bacteria have been linked directly to increased prostate inflammation. Others, like certain beneficial probiotics, appear to lower that inflammation and support overall urinary health. This is why a high-fiber diet rich in vegetables, fermented foods, and clean proteins isn't just good for your heart, it's essential for your prostate too. What this tells us is powerful. Your prostate health is not only in your genes, it's in your hands. The choices you make at the dinner table, the quality of the food you put into your body, and the care you give to your gut can all have a measurable impact on how your prostate functions and how you feel day to day. So if you've been focusing only on your urinary symptoms or hormone levels, it may be time to zoom out and look deeper into your digestive health. Sometimes the source of the problem lies where you least expect it. Now, speaking of overlooked problems, there's one modern habit that's damaging more prostates than we realize, and it has nothing to do with what you eat or drink. It's something we all do far too much, especially as we age, and it may be putting pressure on your prostate every single day without you even noticing. Secret 5. Sitting is the new smoking for your prostate. When most men think about prostate health, they picture medications, surgeries, maybe even supplements, but hardly anyone thinks about the chair they're sitting in. And yet, one of the most common silent threats to the aging prostate has nothing to do with genetics or hormones. It's inactivity. More specifically, it's sitting, something we all do, often without thinking twice. But what if I told you that too much sitting could be slowly suffocating your prostate, draining its vitality, and quietly worsening your symptoms over time? It sounds dramatic, but I've seen it play out over and over again. A man retires at 65. His daily routine changes. Instead of moving around during the day, he starts spending long stretches on the recliner at the breakfast table or in front of the television. What used to be occasional discomfort becomes frequent urgency. Nighttime trips to the bathroom increase. His flow weakens. He chalks it up to age, but in truth, it's something much more basic: lack of circulation. The prostate is located in a vulnerable spot right below the bladder and directly in the path of pelvic pressure. When you sit for extended periods, especially with poor posture, you compress the pelvic region. This limits blood flow, increases inflammation, and allows fluid and toxins to pool in the area. Over time, this stagnant pressure contributes to swelling, irritation, and the kind of discomfort that leads men to feel like their bodies are betraying them. But the body isn't the enemy. The problem is how we use or don't use it. And the solution, thankfully, doesn't require extreme workouts or gym memberships. Just standing up and moving for a few minutes every hour can make a tremendous difference. Light stretching, short walks, even shifting your seated position regularly can improve circulation and reduce pelvic pressure. I've had patients in their 70s reverse years of discomfort just by building small, consistent movement into their daily routine. Now, some men resist this idea. They say, "Doc, I've earned my rest, I'm retired." And that's true. You deserve rest. But there's a difference between resting and stagnating. Movement is medicine, especially for the prostate. Your blood carries oxygen, nutrients, and healing compounds. When you sit too long, it's like cutting off the supply lines to your own recovery. Standing up, even for just a moment, signals your body to get back into balance. I once worked with a patient named Frank. He was 72, healthy weight, no major medical issues, but struggling with weak flow and pelvic discomfort. After reviewing his lifestyle, we realized he spent nearly 10 hours a day seated, reading, watching TV, and driving. No major diet issues, no concerning labs. We created a simple plan: walk for 5 minutes every hour, do a few standing stretches morning and night, and avoid sitting longer than 45 minutes at a time. Within 6 weeks, his symptoms eased. He slept better, urinated less at night, and felt more energetic overall. All from moving more. What this secret teaches us is simple but powerful. Your prostate responds to how you live, not just what you take. And sitting, as innocent as it seems, may be one of the most underestimated risks in modern aging. You don't need to overhaul your life. Just take small steps, literally. Your body will thank you, and your prostate will too. And while we're talking about tools for healing, there's one area men often turn to when they start feeling symptoms: supplements. But with so many pills on the market, how do you know which ones actually work? The next secret reveals exactly what to look for and what to avoid before you waste another dollar or another year. Secret 6. Prostate supplements work, but only if they contain these ingredients. If you've walked into a pharmacy or scrolled through health websites lately, you've probably noticed a flood of prostate supplements. Bottles line the shelves promising maximum flow, overnight relief, and total prostate protection. The marketing is loud, the claims are bold, and the prices can get high. So it's no wonder many men feel skeptical, or worse, confused. Do these supplements actually work, or are they just a waste of money? The answer is both simpler and more complicated than most companies want you to believe. Yes, some prostate supplements really do help. I've seen them improve symptoms like frequent urination, weak stream, and even mild pelvic discomfort. But here's the key: they only work if they contain the right ingredients, in the right amounts, and backed by real research. And unfortunately, most over-the-counter options don't check those boxes. One of the most effective ingredients I've seen is saw palmetto extract, which has been studied extensively for its ability to reduce inflammation and support urinary flow. But not all saw palmetto is created equal. The extract must be lipidosterolic, meaning it's standardized to contain the active fatty acids that actually deliver results. Otherwise, it's just powdered berries, and that won't do much. Another powerful compound is beta-sitosterol, a plant-based nutrient that's been shown to improve urinary symptoms in men with enlarged prostates. It works by helping to block the production of DHT, a hormone linked to prostate growth. When used consistently, beta-sitosterol can support stronger flow and reduce that frustrating feeling of incomplete emptying. Other helpful ingredients include Pygium africanum, an extract from the African plum tree that has anti-inflammatory properties, pumpkin seed oil, which is rich in zinc and supports bladder function, and stinging nettle root, which works synergistically with saw palmetto to calm inflammation and improve comfort. The problem is, most supplements either skip these ingredients entirely or include them in amounts too small to make a difference. Some brands add dozens of fillers, hoping the label looks impressive, but the actual formula is underdosed and ineffective. Others use outdated research or borrow studies from unrelated conditions to make their products seem more credible. I always tell my patients, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. That's why it's so important to look beyond the packaging. Read the label, check the dosages, look for third-party testing. And if the company doesn't clearly explain what's in their product and why it works, move on. You deserve transparency, especially when it comes to your health. And no, supplements aren't a magic bullet. They work best as part of a bigger plan, alongside a healthy diet, regular movement, proper hydration, and stress management. But when chosen wisely, they can absolutely play a supporting role in reducing prostate discomfort and improving daily quality of life. I've seen men go from 5 bathroom trips a night down to 1 or 2, regain energy, and feel more in control, all without prescription drugs. So if you're considering a supplement, don't just grab the flashiest bottle. Be intentional. Know what your body needs and find the ingredients that are proven to deliver it. Now, while we focused a lot on the physical side of prostate health, what you eat, what you take, how you move, there's one final secret that hits on a much deeper level. It's not about medicine. It's not about numbers. It's something most doctors never bring up. But it could be the hidden force making your symptoms worse without you even knowing it. Secret 7. The silent destroyer. Emotional stress and loneliness. When men think about what's hurting their prostate, they usually think about age, hormones, or diet. Maybe they consider their medications, how often they exercise, or whether they're drinking enough water. But almost no one talks about the most invisible and most underestimated threat of all: chronic emotional stress and loneliness. And yet, I've seen this quiet destroyer do more damage to a man's health than any bad meal or missed doctor's appointment. The truth is, your body doesn't separate emotional pain from physical strain. When you're living with stress, whether from grief, isolation, financial pressure, or simply the heavy silence of retirement, it sends signals throughout your entire system. Your nervous system becomes overactive. Your cortisol levels rise. Inflammation increases. Muscles around your pelvic floor tense up. Your immune system weakens. And yes, your prostate pays the price. I've seen men who lived active, healthy lifestyles, ate right, walked daily, took their supplements, still suffer from worsening prostate symptoms. They couldn't figure out why they weren't improving. And when we sat down and talked, it became clear. They were carrying deep emotional weight. A spouse had passed. Their kids had moved away. Their days were quiet, sometimes too quiet, and they hadn't spoken honestly to anyone about how alone they felt. You see, the prostate doesn't just respond to food or hormones, it responds to the total environment of your life. When you're under constant emotional pressure, your body enters a kind of internal lockdown. Muscles tighten, blood flow decreases, healing slows, and over time, these effects add up. It's no coincidence that so many men begin experiencing prostate issues in the years following major emotional upheaval: loss, retirement, relocation, or even the end of long-term relationships. But there's good news. Unlike age or genetics, emotional isolation is something you can address, and doing so doesn't require a therapist or medication, though those can help. Sometimes it starts with something as simple as a phone call, joining a walking group, volunteering, meeting a friend for coffee, talking to your spouse or a neighbor, or finally saying out loud what you've kept inside for years. The men I've seen recover most fully aren't just the ones who take the right supplements or follow every health tip to the letter. They're the ones who stay connected, who stay involved, who keep a sense of purpose, even after life changes. Because purpose is powerful medicine. When you wake up knowing someone's counting on you, when you laugh with a friend or help someone in need, your body notices, your mind calms, your muscles relax, your immune system strengthens, and yes, your prostate responds too. This secret is hard to measure with blood tests or scans. It won't show up in your PSA results, but it's real and it matters. And if you've been doing everything right and still feel like something's missing, this could be the piece that's been overlooked. Now, after hearing all 7 of these secrets, you might be wondering how to put it all together. What's the big picture? What's the best next step for a man who wants to protect his health, reclaim his energy, and stay strong for years to come? In the final part, I'm going to share what I've learned after 30 years with thousands of patients about aging, freedom, and what it really means to take control of your health before it's too late. Final thoughts. The power to change is still yours. If you've made it this far, that tells me one thing: you care. You care about your body, your health, your independence, and the life you still have ahead of you. And that's something to be proud of. Too many men turn a blind eye to the signs their body is giving them, hoping problems will just go away. But you're not doing that. You're learning. You're facing the truth, and that puts you miles ahead of where most men your age begin. Let's take a moment to look back on what you've just learned. First, you discovered that prostate problems are about more than cancer. They chip away at your quality of life, your sleep, your confidence, your ability to enjoy simple things long before they ever threaten your survival. And they rarely arrive all at once. Most of the time, the damage builds slowly, quietly, and starts long before you feel the first symptom. That's why understanding early aging of the prostate is so critical. Prevention isn't just a buzzword, it's the most powerful tool you have. You also learned that the PSA test, while helpful, is not a full diagnosis. It's a snapshot, not a full story, and without listening to your symptoms and lifestyle, it can mislead just as easily as it can inform. From there, you saw how your gut, yes, your digestive system, can directly affect your prostate. The bacteria living in your belly may be either inflaming or healing your prostate right now, depending on what you eat, how you live, and how well your gut is cared for. Then we talked about movement, or the lack of it. Sitting too long each day quietly places pressure on the pelvic region, cutting off circulation and increasing inflammation. Standing, stretching, and simple daily motion aren't just good for your heart and back, they're vital for your prostate too. We moved into supplements, and you learned the truth. They can work, but only if they contain clinically backed ingredients in meaningful doses. No magic pills, no overnight fixes, but real natural support when used correctly. Finally, we pulled back the curtain on what I consider the most overlooked factor of all: emotional stress and loneliness. You now know that what's happening in your heart and mind can show up in your body. Isolation tightens the muscles around your prostate, slows healing, and keeps your nervous system on edge. But connection, laughter, and purpose help restore balance. They're not just good for your spirit, they're medicine for your entire system. So here's what I want to leave you with. You are not powerless. You are not too old, too late, or too far gone. Whether you're 60, 70, or 85, your body is still responding to what you give it. Your prostate is listening. And every small change you make, more movement, better meals, fewer processed foods, more conversations, cleaner supplements, deeper sleep, adds up. The most tragic stories I've heard over the years aren't about illness. They're about regret. Men who told me if only I had known sooner. Men who stayed silent, waited too long, or gave up before trying. But that's not your story, not if you choose differently. So take what you've learned and act. Talk to your doctor. Share this information with a friend. Make one small change today, because your best years aren't behind you, not if you keep fighting for them. You still have time, and you still have choices. And that, more than anything, is the real secret to lasting health.